What happens when humans decide to take a vacation on a planet that even the most resilient alien species avoid at all costs? In the farthest corner of the galaxy, there exists a planet so toxic and oxygen-deprived that most beings wouldn't survive there for more than a few minutes. For the alien observers, this harsh world is seen as a natural fortress, a place where only the most advanced and highly protected could even consider stepping foot. So imagine their shock when a group of humans casually signs up for a survival trip, packing bags like they're headed for a beach day instead of a death trap. Oxygen tanks? Check. Camp gear? Absolutely. And a sense of humor that leaves the aliens horrified? Oh, you bet. Join us as we dive into a story of sheer human resilience, curiosity, and the unshakable drive to turn the impossible into just another adventure. Watch as these brave souls turn an environment no one else dares to approach into their own personal playground, complete with campfires, marshmallows, and yes, oxygen breaks. The aliens are left speechless, questioning everything they thought they knew about survival and danger. It's not just that humans are resilient, it's that they thrive where others fear to tread. So what does it take for humans to treat a death world like a summer camp? Stay tuned to find out, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more out-of-this-world adventures. In the great atrium of the Galactic Research Alliance's Central Command, a palpable tension filled the air. Representatives from dozens of species, some with appendages wrapped tightly in anxiety, others with their scales rippling in agitation, had gathered around the circular council chamber. This wasn't a routine assembly. The subject of today's urgent meeting had left even the most seasoned analysts baffled. At the center of the room stood Chief Environmental Analyst Yakrel, a veteran researcher from the Quarok species. His skin, usually a calm, shimmering shade of teal, was now a tense, mottled green, an unmistakable sign of stress for his kind. Known for his expertise on hostile planets, Yakrel had seen his fair share of deadly worlds and had personally surveyed X-497, the planet in question. He knew its dangers better than anyone. As most of you know, Yakrel began, his voice carrying the weight of authority and caution, Planet X-497 is not merely hostile. It is, by all our definitions, a death world. A ripple of affirmation swept through the room. The Alliance members were well aware of X-497's reputation. Its atmosphere was a near-lethal cocktail of carbon dioxide, methane, and ammonia, with barely a hint of breathable oxygen. The surface was marred by vast, unpredictable storms, temperatures that soared and plummeted with no warning, and a landscape littered with toxic mineral deposits that could corrode most protective gear within minutes. Yakrel continued, "Our scientists can only withstand exposure for minutes at a time, and even then with the most advanced environmental suits. The risk is extreme." A soft murmur swept through the assembly, the various alien delegates whispering their agreement. Most of them could hardly imagine stepping foot on such a world, but Yakrel wasn't finished. And yet, there is a development that defies all logic. A group of humans has announced their intention to embark on an expedition there, voluntarily. A stunned silence filled the room. Representatives exchanged puzzled glances, their expressions a mix of shock, disbelief, and in some cases, horror. It took several long moments before anyone dared to speak. "Humans, as in Earth humans?" asked a voice from the back. The speaker, a spindly representative of the Venrai species, tilted her head, her multiple eyes widening in amazement. Yakrel nodded solemnly. Yes, they are aware of the conditions, and they are proceeding undeterred. They call it avocation. Gasps and exclamations erupted across the room. Many of the representatives visibly recoiled, their gestures of disbelief varying across species but carrying the same unmistakable shock. The concept of vacation was one the Council understood well. It was a period of rest, relaxation, and safety. How could a death world, where every breath was a calculated risk, be seen as a suitable place for that? An elder from the Thren species leaned forward, her three eyes blinking in perfect synchronization. Her voice was measured, but her tone betrayed her disbelief. They do realize the environment will be lethal without constant oxygen support, don't they? Yakrel nodded, his antennae twitching in a subtle gesture of exasperation. They have been thoroughly briefed. Yet it seems they consider this a challenge. The room fell into a contemplative silence, each alien struggling to comprehend the human's intentions. The Thren elder finally muttered, "It appears that humans have an inclination to defy what others would deem impossible." One of the younger members of the council, a research officer from the Orlac species, voiced the question they all were thinking. But why would they do this? Ukrel took a deep breath, as if trying to find words that would make sense to his audience. "It seems they see danger not as a barrier, but as an opportunity for amusement. From what we gather, they treat survival as a form of sport, especially in extreme environments." The murmurs turned into whispers of awe. It was well known throughout the galaxy that humans had a peculiar adaptability. They were known to survive on their own home planet, a death world by galactic standards, with its abundance of natural disasters, extreme climates, and predatory species. But this went beyond resilience. This was recklessness, perhaps even a kind of madness. One of the delegates from the Araxian collective, a large crystalline species known for their logical approach to survival, shook his translucent head. "Incredible. We knew humans were a resilient species, but to seek danger willingly? This seems irrational." A council member from the Draven species, a slow-moving methodical race with a penchant for deep contemplation, spoke up. "Perhaps irrationality is part of their strength. They approach life differently than we do. Where we see boundaries, they see possibilities. Where we see danger, they see adventure." This notion seemed to sit uncomfortably with many in the room. For eons, the Alliance had held the belief that caution and protocol were the foundation of survival. Risk was to be calculated and minimized. Yet here were these humans, treating a death world as if it were a playground, heedless of the meticulous precautions that alien scientists would require to even consider setting foot on such a planet. After a long pause, Ukrel sighed, shrugging his multiple shoulders in a gesture of resignation. "Our scientists have discussed it at length. We've advised the humans of the risks multiple times. Still, they persist. They've even developed their own survival gear, primitive by our standards, but they seem confident." The Orlac's representative tilted her head, her voice tinged with a mixture of dread and fascination. What could they possibly use for protection on such a hostile world? Basic oxygen tanks, thermal blankets, protective suits, and, from what I understand, some form of portable nourishment they call snack bars. A few delegates stifled laughter, but it quickly turned to expressions of alarm. "Snack bars? As if this were a picnic?" "It appears so," Ukrel replied, his tone utterly baffled. "They even plan to bring small metallic containers of liquid they refer to as coffee. It's quite clear they're approaching this with minimal equipment, and an attitude I can only describe as casual." The council chamber filled with a mixture of dread and admiration. There was something inexplicably captivating about humans' approach to survival. They treated the unthinkable as a mere inconvenience, finding humor and opportunity in situations that would terrify any other species. Finally, Ukrel addressed the council as a whole. "I propose that we monitor them closely. If humans can not only survive but find enjoyment on a world like X-497, it could challenge every principle we've held about survival and adaptation. It may reshape how we understand hostile environments. Perhaps there is something we can learn from their unconventional methods." The council members nodded in reluctant agreement, each one privately grappling with a dawning realization. If humans truly were capable of thriving where others feared to tread, it wasn't merely a matter of resilience. It suggested that their very concept of life and survival was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. And that left them with an unsettling question. What else might humans accomplish with their audacious spirit and refusal to be bound by fear? As the council adjourned, the alien representatives dispersed, each carrying a newfound respect and perhaps a touch of dread for humanity's unique approach to survival. The humans arrived in a starship that, by galactic standards, looked almost laughably simple. Where most advanced species utilize sleek, gravity-stabilized vessels equipped with numerous redundancies and shielding, the humans' craft appeared unbothered. Painted in bold colors with a large, cheerful emblem, The ship looked less like an expedition vehicle and more like a camper van for space. Docked nearby, the alien observers, a mix of scientists, diplomats, and high-ranking officials from the Galactic Research Alliance, could only watch in bewilderment as the humans exited their ship. Their gear was minimal: thermal blankets, personal oxygen tanks, and oddly shaped containers marked with labels that read trail mix and instant coffee. Each human wore a version of what they called an enviro suit, which the Alliance analysts had concluded offered only the barest of protections on a death world like X-497. Chief Environmental Analyst Ykrell, watching from the safety of his enclosed observation deck, felt a surge of incredulity as he observed the humans' casual demeanor. They exited their vessel with the ease and excitement of travelers arriving at a scenic overlook. As the humans took their first steps onto the rugged, toxic terrain, Ykrell noted that they seemed almost cheerful. Several even high-fived each other, a gesture that, according to their cultural research, indicated shared excitement or a sense of accomplishment. The lead human, a man named Captain Sarah Fields, glanced around at the treacherous landscape and took a deep, exaggerated breath of her tanked oxygen. "Ah, nothing like the fresh smell of adventure," she announced with a grin, her voice echoing through the comms. Her fellow crew members chuckled, adjusting their oxygen masks as they hauled their gear out of the ship. The alien observers were dumbstruck. Taking a breath of fresh air was a meaningless phrase in this atmosphere. The air was barely breathable, even with their protective masks. And yet, the humans seemed to be savoring the experience. Ykrell's assistant, a young researcher from the Velkith species, could barely contain his disbelief. "They're laughing. They're actually laughing. On a planet where every breath could be their last, they're cracking jokes." Ykrell shook his head, watching intently. "It appears humans approach danger differently than most species. I have a theory they rely on humor as a form of psychological reinforcement. It's peculiar, but perhaps effective." The humans began setting up their camp on a rocky outcrop, overlooking a valley filled with toxic gases that shimmered in ominous hues. To the aliens' further shock, the humans arranged their portable oxygen canisters and supplies with the ease of seasoned hikers. They laid out what they called sleeping bags and constructed a small canopy tent, a tent of all things, in an environment where the very air could kill. Nearby, one human cheerfully removed a metallic cylinder from her pack, twisting off the top. A hiss of pressurized gas released as she poured a dark liquid into a thermos. "Anyone for coffee?" she called out, holding up her drink with a grin. The aliens stared aghast. Ykrell couldn't contain himself any longer and activated the translation feed to communicate directly with the humans. "Pardon the interruption," he said, his voice cautious and tinged with disbelief, "but may I ask why you have chosen to bring coffee on a mission to such a hostile environment?" The humans turned towards the sound of his voice, and Sarah grinned, lifting her thermos in a mock toast. "You've got to have your priorities straight. Besides, what's a camping trip without coffee?" Her casual tone left the aliens utterly speechless. A camping trip? They were treating a hostile, near-lethal planet as if it were nothing more than a park. Ykrell exchanged glances with his fellow scientists, who appeared equally flabbergasted. Another human, a young man with a cheerful demeanor and an impressive collection of snack bars strapped to his vest, chimed in. "Honestly, this is the perfect setup. Look at these views." He gestured to the ominous landscape of jagged rocks, swirling toxic clouds, and distant lightning storms. "Where else would you find scenery like this?" At this, the Velkith researcher whispered to Ykrell, "They're admiring the view? I can barely look at this place without shuddering. The gas storms alone could cause instant neural failure." Ykrell nodded, equally mystified. "It seems they find beauty in danger. I had read about this tendency in human behavior, but seeing it in practice is startling." As the humans continued setting up their camp, they engaged in banter, swapping lighthearted stories of past expeditions. They laughed about survival training exercises they'd endured back on Earth, each tale seemingly more dangerous than the last. From deep-sea dives without advanced technology to mountain climbs with minimal gear, their stories painted a picture of a species that sought out hardship not only for survival, but for sheer enjoyment. The Velkuth researcher turned to Yakrel again, his voice laced with awe. "Do they enjoy difficulty?" Yakrel, his eyes fixed on the humans, replied, "It would seem so. They appear to regard danger as a form of sport." One of the humans, a young woman with a mischievous smile, noticed the aliens watching from their observation deck. She waved, shouting through her comlink, "Hey there, don't worry, we're pros at this. If it gets dicey, we've got snacks and a backup plan. It's called improvise until something works." The Velkuth researcher recoiled. "Improvise? That's their strategy?" Yakrel chuckled dryly. "Indeed, it appears improvisation is a critical component of human adaptability." The humans continued setting up as if nothing was out of the ordinary. After securing their camp, they set up small portable cameras, documenting their surroundings and recording their impressions of the landscape. To the aliens' continued horror, they took oxygen breaks, sitting around in a circle and passing out packets of trail mix as they marveled at the landscape with an almost childlike fascination. As darkness began to fall, the humans huddled together, pulling out another device that glowed faintly in the dimming light, a portable campfire. They crowded around it, laughing and roasting small, sugary confections over the flickering flames. The aliens watched, utterly bewildered, as these strange beings treated the deadly environment like a campsite. One of the humans glanced towards the observation deck and called out, "Hey, Yakrel, you guys want to join us? We've got extra marshmallows." Yakrel's scales rippled with shock. He deactivated his comlink, glancing at his assistants in disbelief. "Marshmallows. They are consuming marshmallows on a death world," the Velkuth researcher stammered. "They're treating it as if they're on a holiday." "Yes," Yakrel agreed, a strange mixture of admiration and incredulity in his tone. "It's as though their instinct to survive has evolved into something far beyond what we understand. They are enjoying themselves." He glanced back at the humans, who were now passing around coffee thermoses and joking about their best camping trip yet. It was clear that these humans possessed a unique approach to survival, one that didn't merely seek to overcome challenges, but seemed to embrace them as a form of fulfillment. Watching them, Yakrel felt his long-held beliefs about life and risk begin to shift. Perhaps, he thought, the galaxy had much to learn from humans. These strange, resilient beings weren't just fearless. They seemed to redefine the very meaning of survival. It wasn't enough for them to endure. They found ways to thrive in adversity, to laugh in the face of danger. And as Yakrel continued to observe, he couldn't help but wonder, was it bravery, insanity, or something else entirely? The answer, it seemed, lay in the indomitable spirit of these Earthlings who treated the impossible as just another adventure. As the humans relaxed around their campfire, sharing snacks and jokes, a sudden rumble shook the ground beneath them. In an instant, the cheerful chatter stopped, and all eyes turned toward the horizon. The aliens watching from the observation deck felt their scales ripple in fear as they saw what the humans had just noticed. A massive storm of toxic gases, swirling in ominous green and purple clouds, was sweeping toward the camp. Flashes of lightning crackled within the clouds, lighting up the darkening landscape in bursts of eerie color. Chief Analyst Yakrel's voice came over the comlink, tense and urgent. "Human explorers, a severe gas storm is approaching your location. We advise immediate evacuation to avoid exposure." Captain Sarah Fields, who had been sipping her coffee, simply nodded as she looked at the storm. "Appreciate the heads up, Yakrel, but we'll be fine. We've got storm protocols." "Storm protocols?" Yakrel repeated, his voice filled with disbelief. He turned to his assistant, who had already begun analyzing potential escape routes for the humans. The assistant's expression was grim. There was no feasible path for them to avoid the incoming storm in time. It would engulf their camp in minutes. The humans, however, didn't appear panicked. They quickly gathered their equipment and began securing everything with the same casual attitude they'd displayed when setting up camp. Sarah issued instructions to her team in a calm, steady voice. "All right, everyone, you know the drill. Wrap up the sensitive gear, cover the supplies, and prep the oxygen masks for increased airflow. We'll sit tight till it passes." Yakrel's comlink buzzed to life again, his tone sharper. "Humans, You do understand that this storm is not merely a minor disturbance. The gases contain corrosive compounds that could damage your protective suits, and the lightning poses a significant threat. One of the humans, a young man with a wry smile, glanced up at the swirling clouds and gave a small shrug. Guess we'll find out. Besides, we've been through worse, right, Sarah? Sarah chuckled, her eyes never leaving the storm. Remember that sandstorm in the Sahara, Jake? This one's just a bit more colorful. The aliens in the observation deck exchanged looks of sheer horror. The idea of comparing this deadly storm to a mere sandstorm was beyond comprehension. To the aliens, survival was a matter of avoiding danger at all costs. But to these humans, it was as if danger were just another part of the experience, a part they intended to face head-on. As the storm bore down on them, the humans activated portable shields around their tent, an invention they called emergency shields, which could sustain small areas with breathable air. The aliens observed with fascination as the humans crouched together, laughing and telling stories, even as the storm intensified around them. Each gust of corrosive wind and flash of lightning seemed only to embolden their spirits. Inside the observation deck, the Galactic researchers' skin turned a pale shade of gray, the Galactic equivalent of horror. They're treating this storm as if it's a game. Ukrell's voice trembled with a mix of disbelief and respect. It's beyond a game, young one. This is resilience, or perhaps madness. I'm not sure there's a difference anymore. As the minutes passed, the storm unleashed its full fury. The winds howled, clawing at the human shields, and the gases swirled with a ferocity that would have sent most life forms fleeing in terror. Lightning bolts struck the ground nearby, illuminating the humans' determined faces. At one point, a particularly strong gust knocked over one of their supply cases, scattering its contents across the ground. Rather than panic, the humans quickly secured the loose items, laughing about Mother Nature's tantrums. Then, as if the universe had a twisted sense of humor, another complication arose. Ukrell's assistant picked up an alarm from the monitoring system. Sir, there's a structural fault detected near the humans' location. Seismic activity is causing the ground beneath them to become unstable. They're at risk of being trapped by a landslide. Before Ukrell could issue a warning, the humans noticed the shifting ground. They assessed it with the same calm efficiency they'd shown so far, each one slipping into action. Sarah directed her team to stabilize the ground beneath them using support stakes they'd brought, just in case. They hammered the stakes in with a precision that left the aliens watching in awe. One of the humans, a burly man with a large wrench strapped to his belt, quipped, "Looks like we're camping on the world's biggest fault line. Maybe we'll end up with a free ride to the lower levels." Another human chuckled, securing a stake as he said, "Well, we wanted an adventure, right? Imagine the photos we'll get if the ground gives way." Ukrell, still on the comm link, struggled to maintain his composure. "Humans, this seismic activity is not to be taken lightly. We strongly recommend immediate evacuation. The ground could collapse at any moment." Sarah's voice came through, calm and focused. "Understood, Ukrell. We've secured the essentials, and if things get worse, we've got the hover packs ready." "Hover? Packs?" Ukrell repeated, completely dumbfounded. He turned to his assistant. "Do they prepare for every possible scenario?" The assistant shook his head. "It seems they prepare for scenarios most wouldn't even consider." As the storm and tremors intensified, the aliens watched in astonishment as the humans managed to hold their ground. With oxygen levels dropping and visibility reduced to near zero, they activated small beacon lights on their suits, creating a surreal, glowing scene amidst the raging storm. The Galactic researcher could no longer contain his confusion. How can they be so unshaken? Their lives are in jeopardy, and yet they act as though they're on a leisurely excursion. Ukrell's expression softened. "Perhaps, young one, it is because they are unafraid. I think it's possible that to humans, facing the unknown with humor and strength is as natural as breathing." After what felt like an eternity, the storm began to subside. The winds lessened, the toxic gases began to disperse, and the tremors quieted. The humans slowly emerged from their portable shields, assessing the damage. A few items had been lost to the storm, but they seemed unfazed. as though they'd expected to lose some supplies along the way. Captain Sarah glanced around, a look of satisfaction on her face. "All right, team, looks like we survived another one. That was exhilarating." The humans exchanged high fives, laughing and congratulating each other. One of them pulled out a camera, capturing the post-storm landscape as if this were just another day in the field. As they began to set up their camp once more, Ukrell's comlink buzzed to life. His voice held a note of awe that was impossible to hide. "Humans, I must commend your resilience. But tell me, does nothing shake your resolve? Does nothing make you fear?" Sarah paused, glancing up at the observation deck with a grin. "Oh, we feel fear, Ukrell. But the thing is, fear's just part of the experience. You face it, learn from it, and keep going." Another human chimed in. "Besides, what's life without a little risk? If we played it safe all the time, we'd miss out on views like this." The alien observers were left in stunned silence, each one processing the human's words. For the Galactic Research Alliance, survival was a matter of strict adherence to protocol, calculated safety, and the avoidance of unnecessary danger. But humans seemed to embrace risk as if it were an old friend, thriving on the edge and finding beauty in adversity. Ukrell turned to his assistant, a newfound respect in his gaze. "I believe we are witnessing something truly remarkable. Perhaps this is why humans have endured so much on their home world. They do not merely survive, they thrive." The Velkith researcher nodded, his admiration clear. "It seems they have redefined what it means to be resilient. They are unstoppable." As the humans settled back around their campfire, Sarah raised her thermos in a mock toast. "To surviving the unthinkable and making it a memory worth keeping." The crew clinked their thermoses together, laughing as they gazed out over the recovering landscape. They had faced storms, earthquakes, and the very atmosphere itself, and yet they remained unfazed, as if they'd only grown stronger. The aliens watched, awestruck, realizing that the humans' resilience wasn't just physical, it was mental, emotional, and unbreakable. To the humans, survival was more than a necessity. It was an experience to be embraced, a story to be told, and a testament to the spirit of those who never gave up. And as the humans continued their vacation in this hostile land, the Galactic Research Alliance found itself questioning not just the limits of human endurance, but the limits of their own understanding of life. As the humans resumed their activities, the atmosphere inside the observation deck was one of hushed reverence. No one spoke. The alien researchers, diplomats, and scientists stood in silent awe, watching these seemingly fragile beings thrive where others would have perished. The humans laughed, toasted, and swapped stories about past expeditions as if this were just another camping trip, oblivious to, or perhaps undaunted by, the dangers surrounding them. Ukrell, the chief environmental analyst, could no longer deny the profound respect growing within him. As he watched the humans adapt, improvise, and, most confusingly, enjoy themselves amidst conditions that defied all logic, he felt his long-held beliefs about survival begin to shift. Turning to his assistant, Ukrell said quietly, "I've studied survival tactics across hundreds of species, but I have never encountered beings who treat danger with such familiarity. It's as if fear itself holds no sway over them." The Velkith researcher nodded, his usually bright blue skin now a pale shade from awe and contemplation. "Chief, do you think that this resilience is unique to humans, or is it perhaps something we've overlooked in our studies of adaptability?" Ukrell pondered this, gazing out at the humans, who were now sharing snacks and commenting on the lovely view of the storm-scarred landscape. "I believe," he said slowly, "that humans are unique. They approach life differently than we do. Where we see boundaries, they see potential. Where we see threats, they see challenges. Perhaps it is because their world has forced them to confront danger so frequently that they have adapted to embrace it." The Velkith researcher tilted his head thoughtfully. "It makes one wonder, have we, as a collective, misjudged the nature of resilience? Have we limited our understanding of survival by fearing danger rather than embracing it?" Ukrell's scales rippled, a sign of deep contemplation. "I cannot say for certain, but watching these humans, I am beginning to believe that resilience is not merely the avoidance of risk, but the willingness to face it head-on. They have transformed survival into something more than endurance. It is a form of living. The other aliens in the room listened, nodding slowly as the words sank in. Their understanding of survival had always been rooted in caution, calculated strategies, and an aversion to unnecessary danger. The humans, however, seemed to find joy in defying danger, as if the very act of facing adversity gave them purpose. One of the diplomats, an elder from the Thren species, spoke up. In our society, we value longevity and preservation. We avoid conflict, minimize risk, and celebrate those who live the longest. But humans, they seem to celebrate not the length of life, but the intensity of it. They embrace moments that would terrify us. Another alien, a scientist from the Araxian collective with a crystalline body that shimmered in hues of green and purple, added, "It is unsettling. They treat survival as a journey rather than a destination. It is as though they are not content merely to exist. They seek to leave an impact, to create memories." The Velkith researcher looked at his fellow scientists, his eyes reflecting a newfound respect for these humans. Perhaps that is why they do not fear the unknown. They see each new challenge as an opportunity to prove themselves. To them, every danger is a chance to grow. Ykrel nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. The humans had defied his every expectation, not only surviving, but thriving on a planet that would have been unthinkable for any other species to traverse without extensive protection. He realized now that the humans' resilience was not merely a biological trait. It was something deeper, an inherent part of their psyche. But with that realization came a sense of unease, a question he could not ignore. If humans are capable of thriving in such hostile conditions, Ykrel mused, then what does that mean for us? Have we limited ourselves by our cautious approach to life? Silence settled over the observation deck as his words took hold. The aliens, many of whom had spent their lives adhering to strict safety protocols, were forced to confront the possibility that their way of life, their very understanding of survival, might be incomplete. The Thren diplomat voiced what they were all thinking. If humans embrace adversity as a path to growth, then perhaps we have been wrong to avoid it. Perhaps resilience is not in mere survival, but in the courage to face the unthinkable. Ykrel nodded slowly, feeling the weight of his realizations settle within him. Indeed, these humans are teaching us that survival is not the end goal, but merely the beginning. Their strength lies in their willingness to endure the unknown, to push themselves beyond their limits. Perhaps there is something we could learn from them. One of the younger scientists, observing the humans as they celebrated their successful navigation of the storm, spoke up hesitantly. "But Chief, doesn't that mean that our understanding of survival has been wrong? That we've limited our own potential by adhering to rigid safety protocols?" Ykrel regarded the young scientist with a soft gaze. "Not wrong, perhaps, merely incomplete. We have valued caution as a means of preserving life, and there is wisdom in that. But humans seem to value life itself as an experience, one that is only truly lived when it is tested." He looked back at the humans, who were now singing, their voices carrying faintly through the observation screens. They sang a tune unfamiliar to the aliens, filled with laughter and camaraderie, even as the toxic winds continued to howl outside their camp. The humans' resilience was not simply a refusal to yield. It was a celebration of life in its rawest, most unpredictable form. Ykrel's assistant, visibly moved, said softly, "Perhaps, Chief, there is more to existence than simply avoiding danger. Perhaps the humans have found a truth we have long overlooked, that to truly live is to face the unknown and emerge changed." Ykrel felt a profound shift within himself, a feeling that was mirrored in the solemn expressions of his colleagues. The humans had defied every assumption they had held, every notion they had about survival, endurance, and the value of life. In their laughter, their courage, and their willingness to embrace even the most hostile environments, the humans had shown them a new path. Finally, Ykrel addressed his assembled team. "Perhaps from this day forward, we should redefine resilience, not as the avoidance of danger, but as the willingness to face it. Perhaps it is time we learn from these humans, not only how to survive, but how to truly live." The observation deck fell silent once more, But this time, it was a silence filled with understanding, admiration, and a newfound sense of purpose. The aliens knew they had witnessed something rare and extraordinary, a glimpse into a perspective that had the power to change them. Humanity's unique approach to survival had opened their eyes to a world of possibilities, one where caution was balanced with courage, and survival was as much about the experience as it was about the outcome. As the humans toasted marshmallows and laughed together under the alien skies, the Galactic Research Alliance found itself transformed. They had come to observe, but they had left as students, forever changed by the unbreakable spirit of a species that refused to back down, no matter the odds. In the days to come, Ukrel and his colleagues would return to their worlds with new insights, sharing the lessons they had learned from humanity. Perhaps one day, they would even attempt their own ventures into the unknown, carrying with them a piece of the indomitable human spirit. As the humans settled into their camp once more, just as they had started to relax after enduring the storm and seismic activity, a new warning flashed on the observation screens. Ukrel's assistant, monitoring the planetary systems, froze, his tendrils twitching with alarm. "Chief Ukrel," he called out, voice tight with urgency, "the gravitational sensors are picking up unusual activity beneath the surface. It appears there is a pocket of pressurized gas directly under the human's location. If it ruptures, it could cause an explosive release of toxic fumes and send debris flying." Ukrel felt his heart race. "Alert the humans immediately," he ordered, activating the comm link. "Human explorers, this is Chief Ukrel. We've detected a gas pocket beneath you that could erupt at any moment. Please relocate to a safer area immediately." The humans exchanged glances, assessing their surroundings with calm efficiency, even as the ground trembled beneath them. Captain Sarah nodded, her voice steady. "Understood, Ukrel. We'll move out quickly. Everyone, grab the essentials. Priority on oxygen and protective gear." They began packing up with surprising speed, gathering their equipment in a coordinated rush. But just as they were about to move, a rumble sounded from deep within the ground. In an instant, a section of rock nearby split open, releasing a plume of toxic gas and hurling debris into the air. Ukrel and his team watched in horror, but the humans didn't falter. In the chaos, one of them activated a shield generator, creating a temporary barrier against the debris. Sarah and another team member secured oxygen masks, helping each other cover exposed skin as the gas began to spread. Ukrel's assistant shook his head, eyes wide. "They're not running, they're holding their ground. Chief, this is unprecedented." Ukrel's voice was a mixture of awe and urgency. "Humans, please, you don't have to endure this. We can arrange a rapid extraction." But Captain Sarah only smiled, a fierce glint in her eye. "We appreciate the offer, Ukrel, but we're not leaving until we know it's safe. We've come prepared for the worst." Another human, adjusting his mask, looked up and grinned through the comms. "Besides, we've got a saying back on Earth. When the going gets tough, the tough get going." The humans rallied together, quickly strategizing amidst the smoke and flying debris. They shifted their equipment, using emergency stakes to stabilize the ground as more cracks formed. One of the humans shouted over the comms, "Ukrel, do you have any information on the gas composition? We could use it to adjust our filters." The aliens scrambled to pull up the information, amazed that the humans were thinking of solutions in such a crisis. The Velkith researcher spoke into the comms, his voice shaking with admiration. "It's primarily methane and hydrogen sulfide, highly toxic. But if you can filter out the sulfur compounds, you may have a chance at mitigating the effects." "Perfect," one of the humans replied, pulling a small device from his pack. "Looks like our custom filters are about to get their test run." Ukrel watched, astonished, as the humans calmly adapted to the evolving situation. While the aliens would have been paralyzed by protocol and precaution, the humans improvised, adapting on the fly. They adjusted their masks, reinforced their shields, and, shockingly, began moving toward the ruptured gas vent instead of away from it. "What are they doing?" one of the scientists whispered, disbelief etched on his face. Ukrel felt an odd sense of pride as he answered. "They're confronting the source of the danger, not retreating from it. They believe that facing it directly is the best way to contain the situation." Sure enough, the humans reached the vent and began using a combination of their equipment to try and stabilize it. One of them pulled out a roll of what they called high-resilience tape, wrapping it around a temporary plug they fashioned from spare parts. They worked with a rhythm and efficiency that left the alien observers speechless. Just as the situation seemed under control, another tremor shook the ground, larger and more violent than before. The entire area began to destabilize, and the gas vent roared to life once more, spewing toxic fumes and shaking loose rocks from nearby cliffs. Ykrel's assistant gasped. "The entire structure is collapsing. If they don't evacuate now, they'll be buried." Captain Sarah's voice cut through the chaos, calm yet determined. "All right, team, Plan B. We're securing what we can and activating the hover packs. Time to get airborne." The humans strapped on compact devices that released anti-grav fields, lifting them just above the ground as rocks tumbled and the earth gave way beneath them. They hovered together, moving as a unit, navigating through the falling debris as if they were conducting a routine drill. The sight was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, a group of beings who refused to surrender, even as the planet itself seemed to turn against them. In the observation deck, the Velkith researcher clutched the edge of the console, his eyes wide. How can they be so calm? How do they know what to do? Ykrel, eyes fixed on the scene, replied, "They don't know what to do, young one. They simply trust themselves to adapt. That is the essence of their resilience." As the humans continued their controlled ascent, one of them shouted, "Hey, Ykrel, any advice on an exit route? We're running low on power here." The aliens quickly scanned the area, and one of the scientists responded, "There's a ridge about 200 meters west. It should be stable enough to provide a landing." The humans adjusted their course, their hover packs buzzing as they maneuvered through the last stretch of falling rocks. Just as they reached the ridge, a final blast from the gas vent sent a shockwave through the area, slamming into their hover shields. One human lost control and began to spiral, falling towards a crumbling ledge below. Without a second thought, Captain Sarah dove after him, using her pack to stabilize his descent. She gripped his arm tightly, her face set in a determined grimace as they finally touched down on the ridge, both gasping for breath, but unharmed. The aliens let out a collective sigh of relief. Ykrel turned to his team, his voice quiet but resolute. "It is time we assist them directly. If these humans are willing to risk their lives for the sake of understanding and resilience, then we owe them our support." The aliens quickly activated a series of drones equipped with medical supplies and emergency power cells. The drones flew to the humans' location, dropping essential items as the humans stabilized themselves on the ridge. Captain Sarah looked up as the drones approached, a genuine smile breaking through her exhaustion. "Ykrel," she said, her voice touched with gratitude, "didn't expect you to send backup. Appreciate it." Ykrel's voice came through with a warm tone. "Captain Sarah, it is clear that we have much to learn from your approach to survival. It would be an honor to assist you in any way we can." The humans quickly used the supplies to recharge their equipment and administer first aid where needed. One of them chuckled, glancing at the alien drones. "Well, I think we just made some new friends, didn't we?" Sarah laughed, nodding. "Seems like it. Guess we're not the only ones willing to step into the unknown." As the humans recuperated, Ykrel's assistant, watching from the observation deck, muttered to himself, "These humans, they turn every challenge into an opportunity, every setback into a story worth telling." Ykrel nodded, his gaze softening. Yes, they face the unknown with courage and resilience. Perhaps in their relentless pursuit of survival, they remind us of something we have lost, the willingness to embrace life in its fullest, no matter the risks. The aliens watched as the humans finally relaxed, sharing quiet laughter as they enjoyed the supplies. It was a scene of camaraderie and unity, a moment of triumph in the face of impossible odds. The Galactic Research Alliance realized, with a humbling sense of clarity, that these humans had taught them more about survival and resilience than they had ever learned in all their years of research. As the sun began to set over the harsh landscape of X-497, painting the sky in hues of deep purple and orange, the humans toasted to their successful vacation, and Ykrel and his team knew They had witnessed something extraordinary, a lesson in endurance, adaptability, and above all, the unbreakable spirit of humanity. As the humans settled in for their final evening on X-497, a quiet sense of accomplishment filled the air. The remains of their makeshift camp were now carefully organized on the ridge, and they sat together, wrapped in thermal blankets, sharing the last of their coffee and trail mix. The wear and tear of the past few days were visible on their faces, smudges of dirt, minor scrapes, and tired eyes, but their spirits were higher than ever. They exchanged quiet laughter, reminiscing about each challenge they had faced, each obstacle overcome. On board the observation deck, Ukrel and his team watched in silence. The atmosphere among the aliens had shifted dramatically. Where there had once been curiosity mixed with confusion, there was now a deep, unspoken respect. The humans' resilience, their laughter in the face of danger, and their unwavering support for one another had left an indelible mark on each alien present. After a moment, Ukrel activated the comm link, addressing the human group. "Captain Sarah, crew of Earth, on behalf of the Galactic Research Alliance, I must express our profound admiration. You have shown us something we never anticipated. Your approach to survival is unlike anything we have ever known. You have redefined what it means to be resilient." Captain Sarah looked up at the observation deck, a smile of gratitude spreading across her face. "Thank you, Ukrel, but resilience is just part of who we are. I think every human in one way or another learns to adapt and push forward no matter the odds. We're just lucky to be able to share that with you." Ukrel's voice softened. "Indeed, we have often considered survival to be the avoidance of risk, the preservation of safety above all else. But you have shown us that resilience can be a journey, that sometimes the greatest strength lies in embracing life in all its unpredictability." One of the Velkith researchers, deeply moved by the humans' actions, spoke up. "We are taught to fear danger, to value stability and predictability. But perhaps we have underestimated the power of embracing uncertainty. Perhaps we have allowed caution to limit us." Another alien scientist, a quiet member of the Araxian collective, added, "It is humbling to realize that resilience is not only about survival, but about living fully. Watching you has reminded us of the importance of curiosity, courage, and connection." The humans exchanged glances, touched by the aliens' words. Jake, one of the younger crew members, chuckled softly. "Guess we all learned a little something on this trip, huh? I mean, I'm going home with a few extra bruises, but also a lot of memories." Captain Sarah nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Sometimes it's the rough patches that remind us why we keep going. It's not just about getting through, it's about the moments you share along the way." The aliens listened intently, their faces softened with a newfound understanding. For them, survival had always been a solitary, clinical endeavor. Watching the humans, they had learned that resilience could be something shared, a force that was strengthened through unity and companionship. Ukrel cleared his throat, a gesture of hesitation rare for the seasoned researcher. "Captain, may I ask, what drives you to face danger with such fearlessness? What gives you the courage to push forward, even when the odds are so dire?" Sarah thought for a moment, then replied, "It's a mix of things, I think. Partly, it's curiosity. There's so much to see, to learn. But mostly, it's each other. When you've got people by your side, you realize that the journey isn't just about survival. It's about sharing that journey, finding strength in one another. That's what makes it worthwhile." Her words resonated deeply with the aliens. They had spent their lives dedicated to research, protocols, and individual resilience. But in watching the humans, they had glimpsed a different kind of survival, one that thrived not in isolation, but in connection. Ukrel, feeling the weight of his own revelations, spoke softly. Perhaps we too must learn to embrace the unknown, to see beyond the boundaries we have set for ourselves. Your journey here on this death world has been one of discovery not just for you, but for us as well. I believe we owe you a great debt." Jake, sensing the moment could use a touch of lightness, raised his thermos in a mock toast. "To mutual survival, friendship, and future death world vacations." The humans laughed, and even Ukrel allowed himself a quiet chuckle, a rare sound that seemed almost out of place but oddly fitting. The Velkith researcher, emboldened by the atmosphere, said softly, "Perhaps one day we too will venture beyond our comforts. Perhaps we will join you on one of these expeditions." The humans exchanged encouraging smiles. Captain Sarah nodded. "We'd love that. Besides, adventure's always better with good company." As the last of the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the alien sky in vibrant hues, the humans and aliens shared a moment of peaceful understanding. They had come from vastly different worlds, shaped by vastly different beliefs, yet here they were, bonded by the shared experience of survival and mutual respect. The Velkith researcher, watching the humans with a new sense of admiration, muttered, "You humans, you have shown us that there is more to life than mere existence. You have reminded us that the journey is as important as the destination." Ykrel placed a hand on his assistant's shoulder. "Indeed, we have learned today that survival is not simply the avoidance of danger, but the courage to face it, and perhaps to find joy in it." As the humans packed up, preparing for their departure, Captain Sarah looked back one last time at the ridge they had called home for these intense few days. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction, not only from their achievements, but from the friendships they had forged. She activated her comlink, addressing Ykrel directly. "Ykrel, if you ever find yourselves in need of some human assistance again, just give us a call. We're always ready for another adventure." Ykrel's voice came through, filled with warmth and genuine respect. "Captain Sarah, you have our deepest gratitude. The Galactic Research Alliance is forever changed because of you. And should you ever return, you will find allies ready to face the unknown alongside you." As the humans boarded their ship, the aliens watched with quiet reverence. They knew that this encounter would echo throughout the galaxy, a testament to the power of resilience, unity, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. As the ship lifted off, leaving the hostile terrain of X-497 behind, both humans and aliens felt the same sense of possibility. The journey had transformed them all, opening their minds and hearts to a future where species might face the unknown together, stronger for their differences and united by their shared courage. Months had passed since the humans had left X-497, but the echoes of their visit lingered throughout the Galactic Research Alliance. In that time, much had changed. The encounter had ignited a wave of introspection among the member species, sparking debates, discussions, and a quiet revolution in how they approach survival and exploration. Chief Environmental Analyst Ykrel was one of the most visibly transformed by the experience. Known once as a figure of strict adherence to protocol, he now led a new initiative within the Alliance, a program dedicated to understanding the human approach to resilience and exploration. His office, once filled with models of safe, enclosed habitats, was now scattered with earth trinkets the humans had left behind, a thermos labeled coffee, a roll of duct tape, and a crinkled packet of trail mix that no one had dared to open, but everyone enjoyed discussing. It had become a symbol of a new philosophy among the researchers, a reminder that the unexpected, the improvised, and the bold could sometimes be as valuable as the carefully calculated. The Velkith researcher, Ykrel's assistant, had since become an ambassador for interspecies exchange, encouraging more open-minded approaches to exploration. Once timid and cautious, he now spoke passionately about the need to embrace uncertainty, much to the bewilderment of his peers who had known him before. He often ended his talks with a human-inspired phrase, "Sometimes, resilience is found in the willingness to try, even if you don't have all the answers." The Galactic Research Alliance, inspired by the humans' visit, had even introduced a new training module for explorers, a rigorous program called the Human Resilience Simulation. Participants were placed in high-pressure situations that mimicked Earth's extreme environments, with limited resources and unpredictable challenges. They were encouraged to find solutions without relying on standard protocols, forced to improvise in ways that many found baffling yet exhilarating. As news of the program spread, curiosity bloomed. Scientists, explorers, and even council members began to wonder what it might be like to approach the galaxy the way humans did, with a blend of humor, adaptability, and fearlessness. To them, it was more than just a training exercise. It was a chance to understand a way of life that had once seemed alien. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Sarah Fields and her team had returned to their regular duties, though each of them carried the memories of X-497 with a special kind of pride. They knew their adventure had left a mark, not only on them, but on the galaxy itself. Their story had been shared widely among human and alien networks alike, celebrated as a testament to the human spirit. It was a reminder to every human who heard it that their resilience was something valued, even among the stars. But perhaps the most profound change had occurred within the Galactic Research Alliance's own guidelines. New directives now encouraged the study of emotional and psychological aspects of survival, inspired by the human's approach to resilience. Where once survival had been defined by mere physical endurance, it now encompassed adaptability, cooperation, and most importantly, the willingness to face the unknown. A few weeks after the program's initiation, Ykrel received a transmission from Captain Sarah. Her voice crackled over the comms, warm and familiar. "Hey Ykrel, I hear the Alliance is embracing a little more adventure these days. Thought you might be interested in joining us on our next vacation. We're thinking about tackling an ice world. Plenty of challenges to go around." Ykrel allowed himself a rare smile, considering the invitation with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Captain Sarah, it would be an honor. Perhaps it is time I experience firsthand what it means to improvise." Sarah laughed. "We'll make a survivalist out of you yet, Ykrel, and bring your team. We'd love to show them the ropes. There's nothing quite like diving headfirst into the unknown with a few good friends." As the transmission ended, Ykrel sat back, reflecting on the journey that had led him here. The humans had brought more than resilience to the Alliance. They had brought a sense of unity, curiosity, and a spark of adventure that would forever alter the course of intergalactic exploration. In the years to come, new teams would be formed, composed of humans and aliens, traveling to worlds once deemed unreachable, uninhabitable, and unknown. Together they would laugh, learn, and face every challenge, discovering that sometimes the greatest survival strategy wasn't avoiding risk, but embracing it. And as the Alliance prepared for this new era of exploration, the words of an old human proverb echoed in their minds, a phrase that had come to represent the bond forged in the fires of X-497. When faced with the impossible, we adapt. When faced with fear, we move forward. And when faced with the unknown, we do it together.